Can you hear me now? Yes. Oh, okay. So the issue was with the sound port. Okay, so I have an issue with my tongue right now. So if it's hard for me to like, if it's hard for you to like listen to me talk, it's because of that. I have a thing called glossitis on my tongue, and it's on my tip. So it's really hard for me to talk. So what I was just saying was that we have a couple of exciting news related to the summit itself, and you can check out the details on the middle of the screen, and you can check the event details and the sculpt of details on the screen. So if you go to that URL, you can see that event happening. It's going to be happening on October 23rd, so check those out. So for today's stream, I'm going to be making a cloth out of the model and going to make some couple of dummies so I can try to get some designs going. I'm currently thinking of like maid kind of like dress. Something like this. Yeah. I don't know why, but like speaking in Japanese is not that hard, but speaking in English without the tongue is really, really hard. Maybe this part could be eliminated. Maybe a frill around this area would be nice. I have a couple of like issue with my bodies right now because like I had a back pain and I still have a back pain issue, and I went to the doctor to see what's happening, and I took some like x-rays of my body, and the doctor just told me that you don't have any issues. Like, I was like, what do you mean no issues? And he explained to me, looking at the X-ray images, I didn't really have any issues, but I have a back pain issue. So I don't know what's happening with my body, but yeah. So I don't know what's going on, but it's still like it still hurts. So I'm like using some I don't know what you call them in English, but you have these kind of like patches you put on the body, so you have less pain over it. And the doctor gave me that, but it didn't really solve the issue. Like, I still have the back pains. So if you're wondering why I haven't made any like sculpts recently on my like personal channel, that's the reason why. I can't really sit long enough to like sculpt. Yeah, seems like it. Yeah, the doctor told me to like, you should walk more. with this back pain. Like, I'm like, what? I could just use inflate, get the basic shapes, and reduce the complexity of the geometry. I don't know. Like, I'm doing a couple of exercises. I'm doing walks. I'm doing more push-ups and stuff like that. I guess it's muscle related, at least. And it's usually like after sitting more than like 3 hours, and then or like sleeping more than like 4 hours, it starts to be painful for some reason. I don't know why. So when I you can see a couple of issues with my mesh, and this is happening because I applied mask like this, but the issue is that the mask didn't really need to be there. So what you can do with this kind of like issues, you can just use polygroup to get the auto polygroups to like select the areas automatically with a different polygroup, and then just isolate it and then delete the mesh like this. Swimming is good. I can't really swim. That's my issue. Like, I don't like swimming. And also I have I drowned once. Like, so that makes me really hard for me to like try swimming. It's not like it's hard to say. Like, I didn't really actually drown, but like it was a close situation. So welcome Nightwolf. Welcome Defiance. Welcome Frank Cocoa. Welcome KZ. Welcome Gaming Mania. Yeah. There's a chance it could also be the mattress bed. Yeah, I suspect it's a mattress issue. So currently I'm thinking of a replacement. But that kind of like thing costs money for some reason, and yeah, like I'm thinking about like replacing it soon. Okay, let's just like think about the other part of the designs right now. I think I'd prefer to have a skirt, so I'm gonna make a skirt right now. Merge loops, delete loops, and then I don't really need the top part. Just need this, delete hidden, and mask the top part. Adjust the size. Also, I think I can show off a couple of like techniques related to cloths. You can mask the top part. Maybe some couple of divisions. ZBrush, not 5, 2. Yeah, it's okay, should be fine. And then mask the top part. And collision volume and simulation. May need to adjust the simulation values a bit. Firmness, fine. I think I need to adjust the top part afterwards. Gravity, collision volume, inflation 0.1. Yep. And then tweak the top part. May want to use the cloth hook. Maybe I want to shrink it a bit. Something like this, and then shrinking. Contract. Any favorite anime from this season? Honestly, I didn't really have time to watch anime for some reason. I should watch a couple of animes, but yeah. What's your favorite anime this season then? Gozaimasu.プロンがね、ちょっと可愛くできると思う。I want some like skirt to flare out a bit. I was thinking about black, kind of like dark color cloth, but I'm not really sure if it's good with white or good with black. So I'm gonna like do the details first, or sculpt the shapes first, and then I'll think about the what kind of like designs should work. I'm about to sleep. I can show the wrap mode of the brush works. I think it's the curve options. Wrap mode of the brush? What do you mean by wrap mode of brush? I guess you mean by the picker settings? Curve options, he said turn on the wrap mode or the standard brush over there. What do you mean by? I'm not sure what you're referring to. So I don't know what you want to do at the end, so I can't really guess what's your thing that you're looking for. You mean wrap mode? Companies making a game based of nymphs? What's a nymph? I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, like I can't really help you. Like, I'm not sure what game you're talking about. Hi Pizza. Currently thinking about putting some gloves, so I'll just temporarily change this part to white and then think about some geometries later, but like I think I'm gonna change some things on the fingers, so just temporary. Is that a 3D printer in the background sound? Yes, that's a Form 2 printer, which is over there. I recently did a model, like splitting the models up into pieces, like 46 pieces, so I'm using that data to print that out. I think I took a photo. No, I took a screenshot of the model. Let me see. Yeah, something like this. And I have a sample print, which it failed, but like you can see the details of the print. Yeah, it's for garage goods. So Wonder Festival is coming up on September, so I need to get ready for that, and I'm like preparing some couple of prints to get ready for the event. So currently I'm busy splitting the models and then being sure to get like done by the deadline. And this failed because we had a couple of like rashes on the side. So I'm not sure you can see, but there's a couple of like small bumps on the surface. I'm allergic to the resin itself if it's liquid, but if it's solid, I can touch it. But like, I'm not gonna like sand it down, or I'm not gonna touch the liquid as is. So I'm not allergic to this if it's a solid, but if it's like having dust, if it's having a liquid state, or if I'm like cleaning up the process, I'm being careful with it. Sometimes make you itchy. Yep. Just be careful if you're making something with resin. I should split the model so when I'm like sculpting along, I want to hide this part of the mesh. Should be easier to do. So for example, if I rotate the model like this, and then if I want to check the back of the model, I should be able to like switch like this and then be able to check it. Couple of issues with the arms. Also, I'm gonna put some dummies. I'm thinking about like having a sword or a knife, but I'm not really sure. And I'm gonna have. I was thinking about like having a small like knife on her hand. So this is just a dummy, so I can see how it looks, and then need to think about this next week, I guess. I was thinking another thing about like having a shield and a small sword, but I'm not sure. Keying model is not really fun. It's always boring to like watch, so, and it's really technical. I'm not really the person to actually talk about like splitting things, I guess. So you have a couple of videos covering those topics. I would recommend watching those instead of me talking about it. I can talk about a couple of like simple things, but I don't want to get like I don't want to talk things and then get it wrong. So that's my concern. Especially for the industry people, like they know more than me, so. I don't know. Nightbot seems to be having issues with the commands. I'll need to send that to Kyle. Do you use live boolean to key? Yeah, of course. I use it all the time. Live booleans are pretty much essential in my workflow, so especially for keying. Like, it was a pain to like do the keying before we added live booleans, and now it's like pretty much easy to go. Like you can estimate what's the result gonna look like, and also you can see if the placement is fine or not. The hands are looking really weird. Like I don't wanna have hands looking like this. Ecuador, hey, welcome. How do you set up the finger snap fast? You switch to move, press Control, and then drag, like this. So it will mask accordingly to the topology. So the thing is, you need a clean topology like this. Mine is not really clean, but like it does the job. And then after you center the gizmo, just rotate. So you can do this. Do you use Substance? No. Does it not snap today? Let me see, I don't need additional areas like this. I just need one. I just need one. Oh. Oh, no. I just need one curve on the surface. I don't need these, but yeah, like I think I'm just gonna split this. So this cool frill is made by I think it was S-Milk, or if you search SM frill. On ZBrush Central. So if you go to this post, you can download the frill. So you can just insert the frills like this and then adjust it if you don't like the details or if you don't like the shapes. currently I'm just gonna split this into parts and then have the things that you only need. I'm not gonna need this, I'm not gonna need this, and I think I'm gonna insert a couple things. I think it's better to have lazy mouse off. And get something like this. Yes. So by default, the setting has some lazy mouse, so it doesn't really snap to the edge of the model if you're using Shift key. But if you change the setting and then switch the lazy mouse off, it's gonna have the snapping effect. So if you switch the mesh and then if you turn on the lazy mouse off and then change or adjust the settings, you're gonna have the effect like this. Not sure if I'm gonna do this or the other side. 24. Looks fine. Okay, then split by parts, and then you're gonna have a couple of meshes like this. And if you want the mesh to stretch, you just need to adjust the individuals by moving it around. So most of the hardest part is tweaking this to look correctly, but the difficult part of getting the base mesh is pretty much done. How do you put frills along edges? So you drag the curve and then press Shift while going across the curve. So I can show you. So if you go to, for example, if you go to curve multi-tube, and then if you go across a hole and then press Shift, you're gonna get this kind of effect. And you can change the size by clicking on it, by changing the draw size. And then if the stroke has lazy mouse on, you're not gonna have the effect. So just make sure you have the lazy mouse off. Maybe have some odd meshes on the data. I usually don't trust recovery data, but sometimes you need to use them. So I don't like the density of the curve, so I'm gonna change the curve resolution to a bit more lower resolution. Something like this, so I can get a bigger frill on the side. something like this. Did you paint in the eyes or the textures? For this model, it's a separate. Oh no, it's not a separate. Let me see. Oh, it is a separate model. Okay, so for this one, it's separate. I usually separate the meshes because for me, it's easier for me to like upscale the resolution if I want more paints, but without like changing the entire face resolution, right? So sometimes I use the actual like face to do the painting, but for me, usually it's not my main workflow. So I usually just separate the eyes and the eyebrows for this one. So I can adjust the resolution without affecting the face. Any tips on how to unwrap a good UV in ZBrush for the heads? Well, polygroup it first and then get a decent like polygroup and then do the unwrapping. Thanks. Let me just check the Kyle related to the Nightbot's commands. I would love to see your approach in ZBrush recreating this hat. Shadow hats? Do you want the actual like knitting on the surface to be there, or you just need a shape of the mesh? Because usually I would just get the shape done and then apply the micro mesh or micro polys to be on the surface, so it has that knitting effect, but not really one by one knitting. Like you can't do that. Like it's really hard to do that. So get the basic shape and then you put some micro polys on top of it. That's what I would do. Yeah. Usually micro mesh or micro polys. Micro mesh is an older technique, and usually I would recommend micro polys. Micro polys will, like for example, if I have a mesh like this, and micro polys, what it does is you go to micro polys. What you do is go to dynamic subdivisions, and then without adding any subdivisions, go to micro poly on, and then you can select the mesh. And you can also press Control and then select a specific mesh, and then you can see the individual like donuts getting applied on the surface. So you can do the same thing for like knitting, like this. And if you don't need this much details, you can downscale the resolution by using like ZBrush or something like that, and then you can have less geometry. So for example, if I do like 1K ZBrush, you're gonna have this kind of like shape. Okay. What about the shape? I'll just start with. Okay, I'll just make this one. It's not that hard. Like I'll start with a face or a sphere, and then just mask out the shapes. And then after my mask out the shapes, like I can just go to the subtool, extract, get the extract without the thickness, and then you're gonna have this kind of like shape. Okay. And then go to like snake hook, adjust the shapes. And then put a bit of like the top part. And then try to retopologize it. Like for example, let's just make a simple face like this one. And then if I ZBrush it with, I don't know, 1K should be fine. And then if I apply dynamic subdivisions, micropolys, and then if I go to, let's see, knit, it's gonna have this kind of like shape. And if I don't like the how it's applied or how it's looking, I can align the mesh, and then I can adjust the scales, rotate it, change the patterns as well. And then also what you can do is this applies to all the geometry. So if you don't want some parts to be following that shape, you can slice it like this and then split accordingly. You can press split, then split groups, and then it's going to have this 3 subtotals separate, right? And then you can apply ZBrush like this, and then you can have individuals. Like you can maybe 1K is like too dense, 0.2. No, 0.1 should be fine. And then you can have maybe 0.2 is fine. So you can have this kind of like 3-part effect, right? So yeah, you can just combine a couple of like details with using these kind of like patterns. Also, you can confirm this and then get into more details as you go along as well. But usually is not the kind of like resolution you'd use in most cases. Like if you're making it for games, you're not going to use this kind of like really high detailed stuff. Usually you just need to have a color and a couple of bumps related to the knitting. So you just need to sculpt so you just need to get the basic shape done and then sculpt on top of it. So you don't really need to go into this details. Some people do, but yeah, in general, it's not the actual like workflow you're gonna see. I think there's a couple of like, sorry with the noise. ZBrush. This is the old method, and you can use this. You can use this knitting effect. Let me see, where's the post? Yeah, I can speak in Japanese, and I also speak in English, so this week it's English streams, but next week it's going to be Japanese streams, so I do both. So if you're wondering why I'm talking in English, that's the reason why. I think you can watch this video for the knits. That's an old method where you use the micro meshes and then get the effect. essentially the same thing. Also, there was a ZBrush Central post related to that technique, but I can't really locate that right now on the stream. Yeah, sorry. Okay, back to the sculpt. Currently, I'm thinking about what kind of like patterns would be suitable for this cloth. Any advice to people who want some ZBrush gigs in Japan? I don't really have a tip or advice related to Japanese like work situations or recruitment, to be honest. Like seeking work in Japan is really hard for a foreigner because you gotta find a company who will be fine with you talking only in English or in your like native language, and usually only big companies would be able to do that. So your requirements of the skills to be able to be hireable will be a bit more higher than usual. So if you're like seeking a work in Japan, like expect that like entry like barrier for an entry to be a bit more higher than the average like US companies or those other countries entry levels. Yeah, I really don't want to say that, but because it's gonna be nerve-wracking and like it's gonna be like, it sounds really harsh, right? But like most of the companies doesn't have a person who can speak English, so for the hairs I just used IMM curves. Like I can show you. I have my original hairs, but usually it's just a cube. Like it's just divided up cubes and then converted into IMM curves. And then if you go to picker and depth, and then change the closest, and then like drawing it like this. And then confirming it, and then smoothing out. That's pretty much it. Like I did it on last stream, and it didn't really take me that much to do the actual process. So you can take a look at that, and then let me know if you have any questions next week or the next week. So on this sculpt, you can see that the skirt and the aprons are not really like looking natural, because for me, I know a couple of reasons, and for me, it's lacking movement. So I think it's better to just remove this frills before I get into details. Get the actual like shapes done. And the other thing is it lacks motion. Like, for example, if you look at the skirt itself, it doesn't really have any like parts where it touches the legs and stuff like that. So in order to make the skirts realistic, you gotta have areas which is like hitting your legs. And like having a couple of like motions on the surface. Like if it doesn't have that, like it's gonna be looking odd. So for example, another thing, if the aprons hit the body, it deflects, so it like lifts up off the surface like this, because it's light and you have more interaction with the body. So you have a bit of surface going in and out, like lifting. Some parts are more sticking to the surface, and those kind of like interactions. So if you don't have that on the model, or if you don't have that on the mesh, it's gonna look odd. So that's the reason why it's currently looking very odd. Also, it's better to have a couple of like creasing. For example, if the aprons are lifted from here, it's gonna have that like flow from here. So you're gonna have this kind of like flow, this kind of like flow. And that's the reason why it looks very odd. And usually the aprons are not really square, and usually it has a bit of like a length difference. And I prefer to have more 3D elements on the surface. So for example, if I mask the areas like this and then flip it around, I usually just like bend the mesh like this to have some more play on the curvature, or the I don't know what you call them, but you have a couple of like a 3D space on your surface. Is this an original design, or you have a reference? I do have a couple of references, but this is my original design. I'm coming up with the designs on the fly, so I'm currently thinking about like what kind of the knife or what kind of like dress she's gonna wear and stuff like that. So I'm looking at a couple of references as I go along, and I would search them before the stream, but all the design process is just happening right now. I don't really have a like end design right now. Like, I have a couple of like general ideas what I want to make, but that's pretty much it. So sometimes I'm really getting confused, or like I'm sometimes getting like my brain is like thinking about another thing, and then my hand is doing another thing, and then I'm getting confused with both of my designs. Sometimes that happens, but I'm usually sticking to my guts, and then if that goes wrong, then I'm gonna redesign things on the next stream. So I did a couple of like streams where I just like ditched the designs on the next stream and then restarted like doing some things, but sometimes those happen. But I think that's the part of the fun part of the designs and making things in general. What is better to do, retopologize or demodeler? I don't know what you're asking. Like, it depends on what you're making. So if you're starting to do some like hard surface, then you can start from demodeler. But usually if you're making like organic models just like this, it's better to just start with sculpting and then retopologize afterwards with like ZBrush. Yeah, like it's sometimes a pain to redo your stuff, but just accept those as a process and then just have fun with it. That's what I would think. So I think it's better to just have a longer skirt. A bit more longer. Maybe not too long. Or I can have double. Yeah. Let me test one thing. Yeah, I think having double works. So what I did is just duplicating the subtools and then masking the bottom part of the mesh and then pulling it with snake hook. So you have this kind of like double skirt effect. I'm just pushing in a couple of like meshes which is coming outside. I can tweak them later on, but yeah, this is the workflow I'm doing. And then it can have a different kind of like bends and folds. usually better to just split them. No. Just split them like this, and then just keep the bottom portion. Just for design purposes. So, like for example, like if I have the entire mesh, and if I just move this around, it's gonna penetrate the skirt on top. So if I hide them or delete them, it's gonna be easy for me to adjust. Do you have a general base mesh for all your sculpts? No, I started this from a sphere, so I don't really have a starting mesh that I usually use. I just use spheres, sometimes IMMs. That's pretty much it. Just those. I have 40 minutes to go, I guess. So another thing related to the sculpt, and this is colors, I usually don't pick black. I usually go for the darker colors, but I don't usually go for black because it's impossible to see the details with black. So I usually just pick a darker color, and then if I need to actually make it black, I'm gonna make them black afterwards. So, a quick tip. Once you go asymmetry, you can't go back, yes? Yeah, in general, yeah. Did you sculpt her symmetrically and then pose her to work on the dress? Yeah, so I started the mesh symmetrically from a T-pose and then pose it afterwards, and then I'm doing the sculpt asymmetrically. And like the dress is a different subtool, so. And then if you have a mesh which is symmetrical, and then if you didn't really change the topology, you can activate symmetry, and then below that you have use posable symmetry. you can use this if you have a symmetrical mesh. In my case, I don't really seem to have one, but yeah. Then you're gonna have a mesh. You're gonna have a topology, like if you have a clean topology which is symmetrical, you can sculpt on opposed mesh symmetrically. But sometimes your like posing may not be 100% accurate, or your sculpt is not going to be 100% accurate. So I have issue talking today. I heard posable symmetry isn't 100% reliable. I might have to try myself. Yeah, it's using the topology and the normal as a baseline to estimate where the position is. But sometimes if you use the clay brush or trim dynamics, it's not going to be 100% like symmetrical. So in some cases it's not going to work. So just be careful where you use them. You can get the effects like roughly, but it's not like 100% accurate. That's not the goal of the plausible symmetry, because the algorithm doesn't really have that kind of like capability. There's a couple like research around those kind of like asymmetrical methods, but all of them are not 100% accurate. So it's still being researched. You can look up a couple of papers and you can see a couple of like issues mentioned in the papers as well. So I'm thinking about the designs, but like, what kind of elements would be nice to have? Extract, set, float. It's just freestyle, like I'm coming up with the designs on the fly, so I don't really have a goal or end goal of the designs. I have a couple of like general directions I want to take, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, freestyle is pretty fun, and I think it's the best part of ZBrush. Like, in other like modeling applications or other like traditional 3D methods, you need to like look at the templates and you need to like have a three-slide image for references, even if you are like starting to like develop the characters, or like if you think about the character designs, it's going to be really hard. So for me, the benefit of like using ZBrush is like coming up with the designs on the fly, and then you can just like instantly get the results. And I think that's the best part of ZBrush. Yeah, like for example, like if you work on 3ds Max, you can get the idea of like if you have the designs already, and then working around that design works. But it's like working on a like CAD design. Like you have the like rough designs already, but with like sculpting, the best part is that you don't like, I don't have any ideas what I'm going to sculpt, but I can do them, and then you can like design during your sculpt, and that's what I love about ZBrush. Like, you can come up with some crazy designs on the fly, and then you don't need a template, or you don't need a designer like suggesting what kind of like designs you should go for. You can do that, you can totally do that, but you can just have fun with the design process. which I love so much. So if someone asks you when you're doing some like live streaming, and then someone asks you what kind of like stuff are you gonna make today, and I can just answer, I don't know, what the heck am I gonna do today? But yeah, you can just have fun. So that's my point of like using ZBrush. It's really, really fun. Really? I don't really follow anatomy that much. Like, I'm not really good at anatomy. I do try to get some anatomical stuff correctly, but sometimes it's not really necessary, especially for animation style. But yeah, it's better to have them. So I usually try to like replicate or like try to study them, but my knowledge is not really good compared to Spicer's anatomy. Like he has a huge dictionary in his brain. I don't, so. Hey, Paula. Paola-chan? Do you have any tips for posing characters? Well, not much. Like, you just need to like look at references and then pose them accordingly. And think about where the weight of the pose is right now. And if you pose them, and then if your like elbows gets like obliterated like this, you can just like go back and then like smooth them and then adjust them later on. So you don't need to worry about like getting your like models stretched or like bending in a weird way. You can adjust that every time. Like you can anytime you want. So if you have that fear, or like if you have that like uncertainty before you do some posing, then you don't need to worry about it. Like you can just pose it and then move on and then sculpt it afterwards. I'm not sure what I'm doing right now. What's your advice for learning anatomy? Just try to replicate them. Usually, Spicer did a good like tip on his last stream, and like he was suggesting that if you don't really, if you can't really remember the individual like names or the muscle structures, you just learn one by one and then remember just one for each day, and then you'll get there eventually. And for my tip is like just watch some tutorials and then read some books, and then have your book next to you, because I'm having a lot of like references next to me and like looking at them right now as I just sculpt. So have a reference next to you and then try to sculpt. Original design? Yeah. Yeah, it's like I usually recommend the Anatomy for Sculptors book, and that's a good book for references. It's better to like it's better you have that book in front of you if you don't understand anatomy. Like you just read through the book first, and then the next time you sculpt, then you have a book next to you, and then turn the page to the like the parts you're gonna sculpt, and just look at the pictures and then sculpt. Try to replicate this. Like, I have several like anatomy books. Like, it didn't really fit for me, but it's better than not having them, if you know what I mean. Like, it's better that you take your time, read them, even if you don't understand them. So take your time. It's gonna take your time. But it's like, it's a great investment for like character modelers or like character sculptors if you're gonna use them every day. So there's no shortcuts to it. Yeah, like, it's better to have like 3 statues like this. Ooh. Something like this. This was, I think it was like 5,000 yen, like $50 on Amazon. You can just have one, and then I painted this in brown because it's going to be easy to see compared to the gray. Like if you look at the body on the right hand side, yeah, it's the 3D total one, but because it's in a like bluish gray style, it's hard to see the actual like creases or the cavity. So I just painted them in brown, so it's easy to see the depths. Yeah, you can just buy Citadel paint and then just use the shadowing to just make it darker. Hey, y'all. I'm just looking and working with this. Is looking. Hey, thanks. She was naked at the beginning of the stream, and now she has a bit of cloth. I'm kind of like sad that like YouTube is like really hammering down on nudity. But like, for example, if I start this sculpt, it's gonna be always nude, and YouTube algorithm doesn't really like that to have that kind of like nudity. Like, I'm conflicted. Like, I want to show the entire workflow, but if I do that, it's gonna be age restricted, or I'm gonna get my like thumbnails removed, or I'm gonna get my channels demonetized. Sometimes it's really gonna suck. like on my personal channel, like I had my video not really taken down, but like age restricted, and it was beginning of the life cycle. Like I posted that video just like a couple of hours ago, and then it got age restricted and it died. Like it didn't really get any views, and it's a real huge issue. Like I get my sculpts like demonetized like every time I do some sculpt, and then it's pretty random. And also if I post a video to it, like if I post a video which is like around 2 hours, it's fine. But if I post a video which is around 10 minutes with the same process, it's gonna be flagged. I don't know why. There's a couple of like weird rules that we can't really see, and for a sculptor that's gonna be not really friendly. And the guideline clearly states that if it's an artwork, it's fine. But if I submit the form of like saying this is an artwork, it's clearly not aiming for nudity at the end, and it's not gonna be nude at the end. But they don't really like that, so it's against their guidelines according to their I think it's a bot, but yeah. But that just means that your work is good, then yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, my artwork is getting face recognized with my phone and stuff like that. Sometimes it's fun, but most of the time it's not fun at all. Like the process of like just waiting for a reply, and like waiting for like 24 hours and then finally getting a reply is like frustrating. Thanks. Yeah, I know there's so much videos, and YouTube can't really afford a human to like actually look at every like video, but yeah, like if it's a sculpt, then like it needs to have that like process of being posed, and then it needs to be clothed outwards, so you can't really avoid this kind of like process. And usually those processes are the most like wanted, so people want to see those processes to be happening, but it's really risky for YouTubers to actually post those kind of like process. So oh yeah, talking about getting the channel deleted, we had Pixologic Japan deleted for no reason, and the claim was oh, you spammed it too much, and we didn't even post anything, or like we didn't post any comments, but it got like picked up by a bot, I guess, and then it got like reported as a spam, and then the channel got deleted once. Like we had to make a new channel, and then yeah, we had to like post the first ZBrush merge videos on that channel. So yeah, like it's crazy. Like we reached out to YouTube and said, "Oh, this is. I think this is clearly a mistake," but they didn't take any actions. And I had one case on my personal channel where I got my thumbnails removed, and I'm fine with like thumbnails getting removed. Like they updated their thumbnail policies for some reason, and then the automatic bots are like detecting the slight nudity as sexual content. And then the thumbnail gets removed. So I'm fine with that. Like I tweak the thumbnails, and then after a couple of hours, the thumbnail gets approved. And then I think it was a couple of months ago where they were tweaking the settings, and it was flagging thumbnails every single time that I changed the thumbnails. So I changed the thumbnail, got approved by YouTube, say it's fine, and then get flagged. And then I claim it again, saying the same text, like this should be approved. And they approve it, and then get flagged again. So like, like I had that one thumbnail like reported or like flagged getting like not approved and getting deleted every single time. And like I was spending the whole day just like replying to them, hey, like something wrong with your system, and then they don't really reply. So they it's crazy sometimes, but yeah, I can't really blame them. The amount of videos they have to deal with every day and every single second is not really humanly possible to deal with. So they have to rely on algorithms. But the way the systems getting like used is sometimes unreliable. So I'm fine with the first process being automated, but the second process needs to be humanly checked. But sometimes you have a couple of cases where it's obviously not humanly checked. So, yeah. Well, for another example, the art categories could be easily abused. So I'm kind of like on the fence about like making the art category easy to be like the art is hard without like making any like skin showing, right? and then like for example, if I pose a model, like you can't really have a cloth on top of it before you pose. It's gonna be a bit harder. So like you expect the art category to be fine with nudity, right? And then other like people who do more shady stuff, I guess, using the art category to like avoid those accusations, will try to do those kind of like stuff. Like for example, like body painting. I saw Twitch having an issue with body paints, and they can't really restrict them because they had the art categories accepting those as fine, and there was a couple of famous streamers doing those kind of like shady stuff, and yeah, they try to avoid it. So for example, Twitch was allowing the bathtub streamers to like to do the streams in swimsuits, but sometimes if I do some like sculpts with characters with swimsuits, it's gonna be banned for some reason. So I was like, what? But yeah, you have those kind of like streamers like abusing the system, and then the system needs to be updated. And I know that's a kind of like a headache for a platform, but and I find it really funny that they call it metagame. So the when the hot tub thing was really getting attention, they called the hot tub thing as a meta. So meta means the main way of getting the, like for example, they use meta for games, or like for example like esports. They use the word meta to like describe what's trending, essentially, or what's strong in that era or in that patch. So yeah, they use that word meta to explain what kind of like stuff is like abused. Hey, Vector. Do you have experience, opinions, and marvelous designer? Yeah, they have a good cloth like cloth simulations. I used to use them personally, but I tend to just like do some sculpting manually recently. So I think Derek would be the next streamer, right? Google Calendar. I think it's from 9, right? Yes. So I'll try to be quick and try to end my stream and before Derek's stream starts. Midnight Blue. This is my sculpt, so I can do whatever I want. So if you do your sculpt, then you can choose whatever color you want. So if you have opinions with colors, then do that instead of like commenting it against me. Really? I'm not really doing anything specific, or like I'm not doing anything special. Like I'm just using damn standard and then just moving. So does she have a name? No, not right at this moment. You can choose. Yeah, for the wrinkles, it's better to think about like where the cloth is hitting the body, and it's easier then if you think about those areas, like where the areas are loose, or is it more tight on the body. So if you like think about the parts where it's tight, you just need to think about the areas like aligning to your body, and then the areas afterwards would be loose, and then it will be tight if there's like actions or like movements. So it's just like using that kind of like knowledge to your advantage. Like it's tension, loose, tension. So I think Thomas Wittelsbach was talking about these kind of like cloth deformations, or like cloth like changes in the tensions in his stream. I think it was like two to 3 weeks ago. You can check his stream as well. Also, you can send your sculpt to get your sculpt critiqued as well. So try that if you have a chance. Tool master. I don't need to merge them. Append is new. Oh, I just need to mirror them. I don't really need subdivisions at this moment. Thanks. Who is critiquing sculpts? Thomas Wittelsbach. So if you check his streams, he's doing some critiques. So you can upload the models, and then he will take a look at it. Also, you have other streamers, for example, Spicer is doing some critique sessions as well. Well, not really sessions, like he does them occasionally on stream. So you can reach out to him and ask him as well. Yeah, he's really good at his sculpt, and like he's good at teaching as well. Okay, I need to end my sculpt today. I'll try to add a bit more details next week. Currently, you don't really have any details around this area, so I would want to have a couple like ribbons or some details around it, so I'll try to do that. Okay, so see you next week. Next week will be in Japanese, and the week after that will be coming back with the English streams. So thanks, and also check out the ZBrush Live, ZBrush Summit coming up on October, and you can participate in the sculpt-off as well. So you can check the middle section of the stream, and you have those informations. Yeah, thanks guys. Say hi to Derek, and see you next time. Bye.